Good afternoon on what is a warm, bright and sunny day. It is Wednesday, September the 13th. And I've got a nice hot cup of tea here in the reading nook and a parcel to continue unboxing. So, what I've got in here is a sheaf of supplements for Over the Edge, and I've looked at some of these so far. So yes, New Faces, What the Cuckoo Likes, or sorry, Whether the Cuckoo Likes, with a little picture of Dot Cross on the cover, House Call, and unintentional broadcast, or unauthorized broadcast, I should say, and then we have The Myth of the Self, which is for Over the Edge supplements. Now, Over the Edge is a role-playing game published in 1992 by Atlas Games, set on the semi-mythical island of Al Amarja, because it's not recognised, officially recognised by any other government, but it is a self-governing republic controlled by one family, the Dubains, and they have a free-for-all in terms of allowing science, magic, and conspiracies to run rampant on the island. Unlicensed, unregulated, almost anything goes. And there are laws, some of them are odd, some of them make sense. It's a very different world. And so, you know, it's if you know about it, it's an interesting tourist spot. But before you know it, a few days visit and you'll be caught up in a conspiracy, or two or three, and one set of weirdness followed by another. You know, as you're contacted by arcane philosophers, talking baboons, space aliens, or little grey men, radical, anarchists, radical drug experimentalists, and so on, and even those who will actually, question the nature of reality and want to mould it in their image. So, Myth of Self, for Over the Edge adventures. This quartet of adventures explores and explodes the concept of selfhood on Al Amarja. Characters in Greg Stolze, the Hive subordinate themselves to an insect group. Mind in the Bliss of Death by Robin D. Laws. Divine Rapture threatens to obliterate the identity of the island and everyone on it. Robin's other adventure, featured in this collection, The Doppelganger Plague, shows method acting taken to an outrageous extreme. Finally, Jonathan Tweet's Deep Trouble studies an Al Amarjan subculture in which people change personalities more often than clothes. This book was created for use with Over the Edge, role-playing game of surreal danger. While you may adapt it for use with other modern-day role-playing games, it is recommended you have a copy of Over the Edge to run it. So we open up with The Bliss of Death by Robin D. Laws. There's no introduction, essentially the back cover blurb serves as the introduction. We give a table of contents, but I say into the first scenario, and fairly clean, tidy out. It feels, I always get the feeling of the layout of these books as if someone has sort of like created them and slightly kind of gone over them with a pencil to rub the edge, if you see what I mean, just to give them a slightly grey feel. That's just how they feel to me anyway. In this adventure, you have a setup, a discussion of who the dramatis personae are, and quite lengthy descriptions of these NPCs and what they want, what drives them forward. And then the player characters join the action. And prepare for a trip where they administer to the poor, visit the Apocalypse Moore House, or Apocalypse Morehouse. And here we have Act 2, The Journey, Dinner with the Devil, and discovering the fissure and sneaking into it, discover what the fissure is and how it's going to rend the island in two, and then the aftermath. And then of course we have the denouement, the finish, and then we have the intersections. And so we've got the aftermath, the immediate aftermath, and the intersections. The intersections is the part of the scenario where it discusses the possibilities of how this one scenario intersects with other factions on the island and the scenarios involving them before we have a long-term aftermath. So this is no immediate, here's what happens, here's what happens immediately after the scenario, here are the consequences further down the road. Then we have the hive. We've definitely got a timeline of day 1, day 3, all the way up to day 19 as the hive threatens to overtake the island. So yeah, day 23 on onwards. So plot hooks to get them involved, your player characters involved, and then also plot development once they are involved. And then we have the Al Amarja hive roach, and discussing the nature of the hive, its telepathy and defense technology, and hive psychosis that we get from getting involved. And if the telepathy isn't working, they have stench combat. Then we get on to GMCs and factions, so game master characters, and then the various essentially equivalent of NPCs and how they are involved, including a set of a trio of Muscle, Larry, Nook, and Crowbar, complete with very fetching illustration. And then the Exterminator, he's the one who's going to be trying to wipe out the hive, as it were, the clear threat to them. And then we have a involvement of the Peace Force. The Peace Force are the equivalent of the police force on the island, and then a couple of people just involved who just might tip how the scenario is going in one way or another. Plot locations. All the way up to Chateau d'Or, or basically Chateau Gold, and the Roach Queen's lair. Then the Doppelganger Plague. This is Robin D. Law's second scenario in the anthology. So we have laying pipes, setting things up, and the columnist, basically the NPC, is going to be sort of kicking things off, I presume, and how he works. I've got a nice illustration of him. He's going to be the one who's going to be following the clues up. And the director, the one who's going to be directing the changes, flipping personalities, switching through, and then for those people who are caught up in the process, we have a ready therapist studying it, and essentially where to look for yourself, and discussions how to basically how to involve her in the game, and have the player characters sort of try and attempt to look for sort of like their real self, as opposed to the doppelgangers. And here we discuss the Doppelganger Plague and how it begins essentially with a PC is doubled, get involved with Rosamund Fong Fong, and we got a news report from Sami Shai Mai, the news reporter mentioned at the beginning, and then symptoms spread, and people began to become aware of them, included, and unfortunately, player characters will learn all this information from Sammy's columns, try and get in contact with him. Ultimately, though, he will not survive. We have a handout there, and then, which prompts more investigation. And likewise, at the end of the scenario, we always have an aftermath and an intersections where the other scenarios connect to, and factions connect to this one. And then the last scenario in the book is Deep Troubles, which presents a new subculture on the island. And the island of Al Amarja is rife with subcultures. And these are small subculture of people on Al Amarja with multiple personalities. So we have a sort of like replication of personalities in in the previous scenario. Here we have basically multiple personalities within one individual. Now this does have a discrete section on multiple personality disorder, so it's going to take you have to bear in mind that this was published in, let's have a look, basically 1992, 1993. So the how we approach the subject of multiple personality disorder might well be different then to as we are today. But once we have that, we have a discussion of who they are, what their nature is and what they want, and the powers they gain, and then various GMCs, Game Master characters involved. Including investigations sort of like with the doctor behind it all, things that could be found there in his office, basically developing plot, how to keep the player characters involved. And then we also have sort of like essentially other hooks and ideas you can use it with. So this isn't quite necessarily a full scenario, but it's sort of like more of a detailed kind of an outline, and we have more characters, Game Master characters involved in the subculture. Tying it into the cloak's weird science and exploring further possibilities of the scenario, where the plot might lead, and so on, and changes in the subculture as the scenario progresses and the player characters have an effect upon it. Lastly, intersections, of course, other connections to scenarios, as with the other scenarios in the book, and then followed by we have an advert for On the Edge, which was the card game for Over the Edge, and also for Once Upon a Time, the fairy tale storytelling game designed by James Wallace, Andrew Rolstein, and others. So yeah, this would have been 1994, 1995 actually, I think. So yeah, that's Myth of Self, and the interesting thing is that does kind of follow through with thematically throughout the book. So we are dealing with the myth of self, lost to a hive in the hive. Basically, essentially, the loss of self to divine rapture, loss of self to doppelganger, and also, loss of self within multiple personalities. So, thematically appropriate title, an interesting source book of anthology of adventures for Over the Edge. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback to post, then I appreciate you taking the time to do so. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me out here with a box containing a book or game, or in this case a supplement for Over the Edge, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea, then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing of Nook. I will be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.